Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to our LinkedIn Live session. My name is Amardeep Modi. I'm a Vice President with Everest Group, and I lead Everest Group's research on data automation and AI. I am joined by two wonderful colleagues, Priya and Samiksha, who are our lead SMEs in the data and AI space. Today, together, we will explore the topic of data governance and observability and their importance in the AI era. Priya, Samiksha, would you like to briefly introduce yourselves?
Sure. Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to have you all here today. This is Priya Bhala. I work as a practice director in the data automation and AI practice of Everest Group. I have been with the firm for over 3 years now, and overall, I hold close to 8 years of experience in the research and advisory space, and most of my experience has been around data and AI. So, yeah, happy to join you all today. Samiksha?
Thanks, Priya. Hi, everyone. I'm Samiksha Meher. I'm also a practice director with Everest Group, part of our data automation and AI research practice. Have been with the firm for over 6.5 years now, and I hold overall industry experience of over 10 years. So glad to be on this session and look forward to a fruitful discussion.
No, thanks, Priya and Samiksha, for joining in. Um, today AI has become a CXO and board level agenda, and enterprise leaders have started to realize that data is the lifeline for AI success. Consequently, we are seeing a lot of focus on building stronger data foundations and data governance strategy. So, Priya, from your perspective, why has data governance become so critical today? And how does that relate to the increased demand for data observability?
I think there are some
Um,
technical issues from her end. Maybe I can share some of my perspectives around this. Right. So, as you pointed out, right, AI proliferation has been immense, which has again led to double clicking on the importance of data. Good data is good output. So, there has been a lot of explosion of data all around, and quality of data matters. It directly impacts the quality of AI model outputs, right? That is the biggest
yep.
contributor. The other contributors are an explosion of data because of the modernization initiatives that's happening all
Mm,
around, right? Moving to cloud native architectures, then we are seeing a lot of changes around the operating data operating system, the
mm,
inclusion of data mesh, data fabric, all of those architectures again, just uh, amplified the need for a good governance structure overall, so that you have a robust data architecture and then reliable data feeding into your systems, which is not only impacting your AI models, but in
mm.
general, all your dashboards and all your decision making that's happening in an organization.
No, absolutely, and those are some very interesting insights, Samiksha, that you shared. From our conversations with enterprises, one of the things that we have noticed is that a lot of these concepts, just such as data governance, data observability, data quality, often gets mixed together, right? Before we move ahead on this topic, why don't we take a moment to just unpack some of these concepts for our audience? So, could you elaborate on some of the differences and interconnections between data quality, data observability, data trust, and data governance to really help our audience understand where to start and how each layer builds on each other? And Priya, since we have you here back,
Yeah.
would you like to share your thoughts on this?
Yeah, sure. And apologies for the network issue. So maybe it's a very interesting question, Amar. Let's start with the very broad category first, which is the data governance, right? If you look at data governance, what it does is it provides structures and rules that really guides how data is created, how it is classified and shared and used across the enterprise, right? Some of the capabilities that it includes is metadata management, master data management, data security, access control. So all in all, it really establishes the ownership and accountability, and also the decision rights, so that the teams in the organization, they operate with a very unified and a common understanding of what data means and who is responsible for it and how it should be managed at an organization level. So, in many ways, if you think about it, data governance acts as a backbone because it creates the foundation on which data quality, observability, and then ultimately data trust is built upon. So, that's data governance. If you talk about data trust, right, it's a very broad concept. It's basically the confidence that stakeholders have in using the data for right decision making. Trust really arises from a combination of the underlying concepts that we'll be talking about. So quality, observability, lineage, all in all, they help in enabling data trust. And higher data trust means that the business leaders believe that data is more reliable and it's more compliant. Now, if you think of data governance as a very broad umbrella, right? Under that umbrella, we have more specific pillars like data quality, data observability, and even data security. So they sits in a layer down the data governance layer, right? So that's how I would break it up. Samisha, why don't you throw some light on the other concepts?
Yeah, yeah. So, like Priya mentioned, right, within the data governance, we have a lot of other buckets. The data security aspect, which primarily covers all the things around protecting the data from misuse, from theft, from access issues. So, it's more about access management, data encryption, masking the data, and all of those sorts. So, basically, protecting the data part of it. The second would be the data quality aspect of it. Data quality is again more around assessing if the data is fit for purpose or not. So it is done through predefined checks for correctness of data, accuracy of data, whether the data is complete, not complete, duplicates are there, not there. So basically assessing whether the data, stored data, is fit for purpose or not. And the third aspect here I would like to talk about is the data observability aspect, which is around monitoring and tracking the overall health of the data pipelines and systems. So, data observability primarily helps with identifying issues with the data in pipelines. It could be around detecting anomalies, it could be around understanding schema changes, why a particular pipeline is failing, and overall now data observability platform also help you remediate some of these issues. So that is how I would say the data governance thing comes together.
No, absolutely, Samisha. I think those really help clarify some of these. And, one question that we also quite often hear from our conversations with enterprises is, hey, what exactly is the difference between quality and observability, right? So, can you throw some light on it? Can you elaborate a bit more on the differences between these two aspects?
Sure, Amar. I can take that up. So let me put it that this way, right? Data quality examines data at rest, whereas data observability addresses data in motion, that is data that is moving through the pipelines. So if data quality is about identifying errors such as inaccuracies in data, some data is incorrect, or let's say some data is missing, or some duplicates are present. So this will be assessed under data quality. But what data observability does is it focuses on fixing the systemic problems and not correcting these individual errors. So basically, it helps identify why certain dashboards are failing, the why part of it. What is the root cause? Why certain pipelines are failing, why certain dashboards are not appearing. So it helps identify that root cause, which could be due to anomaly in data, which could be due to drift in data, which could be maybe changes in volume of the data. So there could be variety of reasons which data quality which cannot be checked under data quality, right? Data quality is about static rules. You have predefined rules to check whether it is the data is meeting those rules or not. But data observability, on the other hand, it is more about more dynamic and adaptive kind of situation where AI ML is primarily used to understand the nature of issues and uh, understand how we can fix those issues so that the downstream impact is minimized. I hope that helps.
No, that really helps understand this, Samiksha, and this also helps set the foundation of all these different concepts and how these all weave in together for enterprises. So now that we have clarified some of these concepts, what they mean, how they really relate to each other, why don't we turn the focus towards the tech ecosystem around observability. So again, we know that when enterprises start exploring this data observability space, one of the questions that they ask is around the supplier landscape. So what are the different types of technology providers that we see merging in the data observability space, and how are they different from each other?
Right. So when we look at the overall data observability landscape today, we see a diverse set of players. Again, each one coming from a different heritage, from different that solve different pieces of the puzzle, right? So if I were to talk about the different categories, the first one being the native data observability players, the likes of Axel Data, Monte Carlo, and so on and so forth. These are the pure play specialists, right? They're specifically built for solving data observability problems. They go very, very deep into pipeline monitoring, anomaly detection, remediation, so on and so forth. And owing to the very nature of their platform, they're very fast and often move very fast in terms of innovation in the market, right? The second would be the data quality heritage providers, the likes of Anomalo and DQ Labs, that have a very good experience of solving challenges around data quality. So they understand those rules, profiling better than anyone in this market. So these providers have now extended from data quality to data observability so that enterprises can shift from just reactive monitoring to proactively detecting issues and resolving them. So the third type of providers that we see in the market are the data management heritage providers, the likes of Atacama, Informatica, and so on and so forth. So they cover the end-to-end data management spectrum. They have multiple offerings, including catalogs, MDMs, data governance solutions, beyond data observability. Right, data observability is one part of their offering or part of their broader suite. So they help enterprises looking for an integrated ecosystem governing their overall data ecosystem. So these are primarily the data players coming from the data side of the equation. We also have IT observability players, players like Splunk, Datadog, Elastic, that have the history of monitoring logs and applications and so on and so forth. So with the increase in the data workload, they have now expanded observability to data observability as well. So they provide a unified offering for observability right from application monitoring to data monitoring. And then finally, we also have hyperscalers, although they don't call themselves as data observability players, but they do have some data observability capability embedded within their cloud native platforms. So broadly, this is a spectrum, right? There are a diverse set of providers offering data observability capabilities. Now it is up to enterprises based on their maturity, their data needs, their governance mandates as to what kind of provider fits into their enterprise ecosystem.
No, I think that's a very important point to call out that, hey, the supplier landscape is very diverse, different types of providers who are providing this capability, they have different approaches. There is no one size fits all approach for enterprises, right? They really need to understand, hey, what are their requirements? And accordingly, different set of providers can be a better fit for different types of enterprises depending on their environmental factors, their context, their specific requirements of data observability. And there are a lot of M&A activities also happening. So the landscape is also evolving at a very fast pace. And I think it's a good time to also mention about a recent research where we evaluated 19 leading data observability technology providers and positioned them on our peak matrix. Very in-depth evaluation of their capabilities, their vision, their market impact, the feedback that we are hearing about their capabilities from their clients. And for our audience today, we are bringing a complimentary exec summary of that report that everyone can download by scanning a QR code that you would be seeing pop up on top right of your screen. Now, I think this really gives a clear picture of the provider landscape, how it looks like, how varied it is, and what is also interesting is that once organizations see how broad and diverse this space is, right? The next natural question becomes about, hey, how they can scale. While data quality has been around for a while and it's pretty mature space, data observability is relatively new in the market. And in this regard, why don't we help our audience understand what's the size of the data observability market currently is, and what are some of the factors that are influencing its future growth.
Right. Maybe I can take that up. So, data observability market, to be honest, it's expanding at a massive pace, right? So, if we talk about the core data observability market, and when I say core, I literally mean players which are data quality heritage, native data observability providers, data management heritage provider, and largely it excludes the hyperscalers and the broader observability players, because most of their offerings are embedded and they don't have a standalone offering, right? So if you just track the observability market, this was close to half a billion, around by the end of half a billion US dollars at the end of 2024, as per the analysis that we did. And what we expect is that in just by just end of 2026, we expect it to cross $1 billion mark, and the expected CAGR is to be around 35 to 40%. That is an impressive growth. So we started tracking data observability 2 to 3 years back, and then at that point in time, I remember there was hardly any market for data observability, and in such a short pace, this has captured a lot of attention from enterprises, and it has carved out its niche. So we believe that it's really expanding at an impressive pace, and this kind of rapid acceleration makes one thing very, very clear, that it's no longer a nice to have concept, which which used to be the case, say, a couple of years back, but it really lays down the foundation as to how modern data ecosystem now operates. In that context, there are multiple factors, to which we can attribute its growth to. Let me talk about few of them. So to start with, we talk about data modernization to begin with. Enterprises, be it large or small, they are replacing their legacy systems with newer cloud native architectures. They are becoming advanced technology oriented organizations, and in that context, observability really becomes essential to ensure that there is reliability in data across the pipelines. Second, there are newer data operating models are emerging. So concepts like data mesh, data fabric, they demand a very unified visibility, because data ownership in those cases is decentralized across different domains and different business functions. So that's why it becomes a driver for adopting data observability. Third, I think it's also and it's very interesting. Most of us know that is a surge in generative AI investments across enterprises, and that has increased the importance of a trustworthy and high quality data. models are only as good as the data that's feeding into them. So organization really need to have data observability that can then detect the drift or monitor freshness, and basically ensure that the end-to-end data life cycle is really healthy. Finally, there is a very interesting concept that is emerging, the rise of data marketplaces, which is also creating a demand for quality data flows that supports data exchange across multiple teams and multiple ecosystem. And this only becomes important as in when we adopt more open architectures, right? So I think these are some of the drivers that is driving the need for data observability. Amar, I hope that answers your
Absolutely.
question.
No, I think that definitely answers this question, and I think this combination of modernization, AI adoption, decentralization, and new data exchange models is really creating the right environment for observability to scale rapidly among enterprise, and that's where we are seeing a lot of growth, a lot of adoption, a lot of interest from enterprises in the observability. And that also leads to the next question that we hear from many enterprises around, hey, uh, how does this growth map to different industries, different geographies? Which industries and geographies are seeing greater adoption, where we are seeing higher growth? But before you answer this question, since this pertains to industries and geographies, let me ask one question to our audience. Why don't mention where you're joining from and which industries do you join from in the comment box? Okay, over to you, Samiksha.
Right, Amar. So first was talking about geographies, right? North America is the largest adopter, again, owing to its mature state of technology implementation amongst enterprises and owing to the scale, like other technologies within the automation spectrum. We have seen North America is the largest adopter with around 60% of the adoption happening there. The next in line is APAC, which is again driven by rapid digital transformation happening in the geography, and very, very strong investments coming from the financial services, telecom sectors, the digital native enterprises that are relying heavily on real time data, right? So, again, APAC is closely followed by the European market. Talking about geographies, no brainer, banking and capital markets is the largest adopter. Again, they account for almost one third of the adoption that we witness in the market. If you talk about the growth rate, right, again, the fastest growing industries as per our analysis is firstly the banking and capital markets, and then we've seen good growth coming from the manufacturing sector. Again, explosion of uh, these sensors, IoT devices, Industry 4.0 has led to explosion of data, which in turn is increasing the adoption of data observability solutions within these industries. Right, we've also seen good uptick in demand for data observability solutions in industries like telecom, insurance, media, and entertainment. So over that, most of the industries are actually doubling down on their investments in observability to build that trust in data and to build a very, very sound foundation of the data ecosystem that they're building.
Very interesting. And again, for the audience, we would love to know where you're joining from, which industries do you join from, and I hope the answer kind of helps understand how data observability is being adopted in your geography, in your industry. And we have a very related question. Samiksha here. So, some examples. Can you share some examples of applications, use cases, and impact of data observability across industries? So, this is a question coming from our audience.
Yeah, so it's actually interesting to see how different enterprises are differently using the data observability solutions within their context. So, to give some examples, like let's take one of the large CPG companies that we had come across, right? They are implementing data observability to build stronger trust in their AI and analytics layer. Right? So what they did was empowered their analyst with the data observability solution to actually create their own data rules and quickly resolve the anomalies within the data so that they could create a very trustworthy layer of foundation for the generative AI adoption. So basically, it was more about creating this foundational layer for generative AI adoption. If I were to talk about one of the examples that we've seen in the telecom sector, right? This a large major operator within the telecom sector. They implemented observability to gain deeper visibility into their multi-cloud pipelines, data pipelines, and understand the performance bottlenecks there. So this helped them proactively detect the bottlenecks and cut down on the blind spots that would have come and otherwise crept into the analytics and AI systems. So it is more about getting visibility into the multi-cloud pipelines. Talking about impact, right, we had come across one of the case studies within the financial services companies where we saw that this company had actually saw improvement of close to 75% when it comes to regulatory data accuracy by using data observability solution, right? It just not helped reduce the time to insight, but overall what we noticed that the manual issue triage time went down by close to 50-60% by using the data observability solution. So this directly impacted the customer satisfaction, which simply means that data observability is not just a back-end solution, it has real and direct impact on your business, on your revenue, and on your front-end operations.
No, those are some really great examples across different industries, Samiksha. And we're also getting another question, a related question from our audience. How successful is BFSI in AI adoption given the fact they have strong on-prem reliability? Uh, Samiksha, Priya, one of you want to take this up?
Uh, Maybe I can take this up, and Priya, feel free to add your insights there, right? Like other technologies, BFSI has been at the forefront of adoption. It has been one of the largest adopters of AI. Again, there are regulations, there are reliability on-prem solutions, but they have been able to overcome some of these glitches with governance related aspects, with the security, by catering to the security related aspects. So uh, I see there has been very good and successful case studies that we have come across in this industry. And then there is, I mean, they are at the forefront of adoption if I compare it with other industries.
And I think to that point, there are a lot of governance and security solutions and even data observability offerings that do offer observability and governance and security at an on prem as well. So in that aspect, I think this is only helping BFSI industry accelerating their AI adoption. So we have a lot of deployment options available these days, a lot of different architectures emerging on
And
that
then
front.
just to add on to that, there is this emergence of hybrid cloud architecture, right? Where your critical secure data rests in your premise, whereas other operations happen on the cloud. So this hybrid cloud architecture has been helping accelerate some of these adoptions as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think I'm glad that this question came up because we often hear this question in our conversations from our financial services clients and people from that industry who we interact with. That hey, you know very regulated industry, very heavy on prem. So I think this really helps understand how it's kind of spanning out in such a regulated industry that have traditionally been very on prem heavy. I think uh, there sorry, I think there is some network issues, but I think we have talked a lot about the market, how adoption is evolving across different industries, different geographies. Now let's delve a bit deeper into some of these technologies, right? So, what major technology trends are you seeing in the data observability space, and how are these trends redefining how enterprises build, monitor, and scale their data ecosystems?
Right, maybe I can start, and Samiksha, please feel free to add. So, there are a couple of interesting technology trends that we are observing in the data observability space, right? So, to start with, we are seeing an emergence of AI assisted root cause analysis and automated remediation, which moves observability from detection to action. So, there was always some kind of action associated with data observability, but with the advent of generative AI and agentic AI, I think the action has become more and more trustworthy, and which is reducing the human in the loop effort as well. So that's on AI assisted root cause analysis. Second, I think, and it's a very clear. There is a very clear demand emerging because of generative AI and agentic AI here, that there is a growing demand for unstructured data monitoring. Now enterprises are using all sorts of modalities of data, right? So text, images, logs, multi-model inputs, which earlier wasn't the case. So there is a lot of growing demand to observe and monitor the unstructured data, which is becoming a very, very huge market these days. Then I think we are also noticing a very sharp focus on spend management. So with Gen AI and agentic AI and in general AI implementation, enterprises are seeing soaring cloud and AI costs, and they really want visibility because they are being questioned about each and every spend. So given the environment that we operate in, right? So they want visibility into the cost impact of each and everything, and in that aspect I think data also become a cost imperative. So a lot of focus on how do you visualize the spend management of your data pipeline. So that's another interesting trend that we are noticing. And I think there is also, of course, generative AI and agentic AI assisted querying. So, which is making observability far more accessible and autonomous than it was before. So, earlier also there used to be an alerting systems, but now we have chatbots and querying system which are powered by generative AI and agentic AI, which is making it more accessible. So yeah, these are some of the technology trends that we are observing in the data observability space. I hope that answers your
Yep.
question, Amar.
Absolutely. I think it absolutely does answer it, Priya. And just to kind of delve a bit deeper into Gen AI and agentic AI, again, these have become very, very important, and it's really fascinating to see how these, the evolution of Gen AI and agentic AI are also reshaping how enterprises, what enterprises expect from data observability. So, why don't we, talk a bit about how Gen AI and agentic AI are transforming the very role of data observability, and what new opportunities or risks should enterprises be prepared for?
Right, Amar, maybe I can take that up. As you rightly pointed out, Gen AI and even agentic AI is literally fundamentally reshaping the expectations from data observability, right? So initially or traditionally, what observability did was it told you what went wrong in your data pipelines. But now with Gen AI, it can also tell you why it went wrong. It can come up with reasons and it can also further come up with suggestions on how you can remediate that issue, right? And with agentic AI, it can actually automatically also fix some of the operational problems. So if I were to tell you or talk about other areas where generative AI has been uh, making its mark within the data observability ecosystem. Incident management part of it, which Priya also highlighted, right? It's not just about alerting, but if not managed properly, you will be in a deluge of alerts. So Gen AI will help highlight some of the important incidents based on the impact or the based on the downstream impact it can have on the businesses. So it will help you better prioritize some of these incidents. It can also help do some root cause analysis. Like I said, it can suggest some of the underlying reasons why certain pipelines are failing, and also come up with recommendations on what are the possible ways, or in the past, how have these issues been fixed, so that the data analysts and data engineers can speed up their resolution mechanisms. Other than that, GenAI has also helped with code generation, rule generation, creating quality checks to check the data accuracy and so on and so forth. And finally, it has also some role in forecasting the infrastructure. Let's say we talk about the spend part of it, right? It can also help predict the workloads and accordingly suggest on how you can optimize the infrastructure and the workloads. And then also, uh, beyond code generation, actually, it can also help with fixing of errors within the code. So there are a variety of areas where GenAI can or is actually has started playing a very, very important role within the data observability platforms at the moment.
Yeah, I think, and to
Absolutely.
add,
And this,
go ahead.
sorry, go ahead,
Just a
Priya.
thing to add on to it. So there is also, a big shift in how generative AI changes how users interact with observability altogether. Like I talked about earlier, these natural language interfaces are making it easier for even business users to query data health and understand lineage, investigate issues. They need not have deep technical knowledge as well. So we are also seeing that this there is a big shift of how observability makes it more business friendly.
No, absolutely. I think this really highlights a very important part, of how data and AI correlate with each other. So it's not just about you need data for AI. You also need AI for better data, right? So it goes both ways. And I think as observability becomes more intelligent, autonomous, and more embedded into the workflows, what we're seeing is that enterprises need a more strategic approach to adopting these technologies. So, from our conversations, what are some of the key challenges that we're seeing enterprises face, and what are some of the key success factors or best practices that they can adopt to overcome some of these challenges and really get the most out of their investments?
Maybe I can first talk about some of the challenges that I have seen in the market, right? One of the biggest challenge that enterprises often face is they try to monitor everything at once at the first go itself, right? So it leads to a lot of noise, it leads to a lot of alert fatigue and operational overhead. So the best practice here would be identify the most critical pipelines, identify and start with the high value data product first. Once you get some early wins there, then you start expanding the coverage of the solution in phases. If you want to go all in at the first go, you will be in a chaos, right? Another thing that I have seen within enterprises is the fragmented ownership or lack of accountability, because all of these teams, the business team, the data teams, the platform teams, they operate in silos. So there is lack of clarity around who is going to monitor the data, who is going to fix it. It is whose accountability basically. And there's a very simple solution for this. You need to establish a clear ownership model right from the very start, as to you need to define who the product owner will be, who the engineering lead will be, who will share the accountability for data health. And then if I were to talk about another challenge is, many organizations treat data observability as an add-on, right? They start with their initiatives and later on add data observability once they come across some issues. But if you want to build a strong data foundation, the recommendation here would be start or embed your a data pipeline design with data observability. Start with the data observability solution when you start designing your data pipeline, so that it already takes into consideration that it is being monitored and everything is flowing smoothly. So these are the top three things that come to my mind if we talk about challenges and some of the best practices to overcome that.
And I think we really missed talking about one of the emerging, rather, and most prominent challenge of cultural issues, right? That it often gets overlooked. Now that we have business teams, that also operates with data, sometimes, it is the, I mean, most of the time it is the case that they do not always have visibility into data health, which in turn reduces the trust and also slows down the adoption of these tools. In order to mitigate some of these, I think what enterprises can do is they can democratize the observability insights by making data health metrics more transparent and more accessible to the broader group. They can also enable some of the self-service diagnostics and basically build a culture where reliable data then becomes everybody's responsibility. And that's where we know some of the concepts like data mesh is also emerging. So yeah, that's another challenge, that we see emerging in this space.
No, I think I really, really like the last point that you mentioned, Priya, that data quality and data governance should be everyone's responsibility, right? Everyone in the organization should be accountable in some way or the other to ensuring that data is of good quality and it's well governed. I think. We also have a very related question from our audience. I'll just read out the question. What are the recommended tools for AI observability and metrics that can be implemented and tracked for better agentic AI adoption? I think very relevant question. I think from a data observability standpoint, we have done very in-depth research of the supplier landscape and evaluated 19 leading data observability tech providers, and we have published that research. For our audience today, we are sharing a exec summary of that research on a complimentary basis, which everyone can access by scanning the QR code on the top right of the screen. But beyond that, Samiksha, Priya, do you want to add any further thoughts on this question?
Maybe I
Yeah, I mean, sure.
can.
Go
Sure.
ahead. Please go ahead.
Okay. I think from an AI observability standpoint, while we are seeing independent tools like Fiddler or and more are coming up, but it's still an emerging market, and some of the data observability vendors and broader observability vendors have also started doing AI observability. We also see that some of the broader AI platform vendors are also enabling observability within their AI enterprise AI platform. So that's the kind of tools we see emerging in AI observability space. And to answer your second question, I think in that context, there are multiple lenses to look at. How you can measure the outcomes for agent implementation. So one can be quality related matrix, so data drift or throughput rates or how schemas are failing. So that's all of that falls into the quality bucket. Then there is a very very important layer of how do you monitor the performance of AI and LLMs and their output. So how much drift are you expecting in that space? What are the accuracy rates, error matrix when you are implementing these large models? What is the latency rate? And like I highlighted earlier, some of the cost matrix related to models and in general data, these are also becoming more and more important. So I think these are some of the metrics that can be used to monitor AI and agentic AI implementation. Samiksha, why don't you add on to it?
Yeah, just one point around the metrics part and measuring the success part of it. That is a very pertinent question. How do you measure the success of your agentic adoption or AI adoption per se? One part is obviously the quality aspect, whether the models are performing as expected or not, what is the hallucination rate. But the other important part is the adoption aspect also. You need to simultaneously track the adoption rate, the active usage rate. Unless it is being actively used across a group of people or across your organization, it is as good as not having it at all, right? Only having very limited use case which cannot be scaled across the organization, that limits the kind of efficiency and the kind of uh, benefits that you can gain from these kind of solutions. So that is an important thing that you need to simultaneously track alongside the performance of your models and the agents.
Great. No, I think really, really great set of insights. And I'm also noticing the time. I think we try to address a lot of questions from the audience today, but if there are any unaddressed questions, we would be happy to kind of follow up and answer some of those questions via email or offline. And as we close today's LinkedIn Live session, one theme has come through very clearly. Data observability is not simply a monitoring layer. It represents a broader shift in how enterprises now operate, collaborate, and are looking to build trust in their data. And when it is paired with strong governance mechanisms and some of the emerging tech capabilities, observability really becomes a catalyst for responsible AI adoption. Very, very important. Responsibility, trust, accountability are very important concepts when enterprises think about their AI strategy, their scaling AI adoption. Um, Thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Samiksha and Priya, for sharing some of these very wonderful and in-depth insights on this topic. We would look forward to continuing these conversations with all of you who joined today. And with that, thank you for your time, and till next time.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.